Northeastern Maryland. I'm actually in Northeastern Maryland. Presently, our headquarters is in the great state of Texas in Austin, and I get there quite a bit. It's really good to be with you. I'm going to share my screen just to talk through the presentation here. And let me make sure I've got the right thing here. It looks like you should be seeing my slides, and I will get it into a full slideshow. Okay, so I want to talk about the ongoing evolution, or I'll say revolution, in GIS. You may have noticed, or you might notice now, the our company name is Locaition Matters. I think that's a familiar expression that, as GIS professionals, we would all be familiar with. You also may notice that we've spelled it wrong. There is an AI in the middle, and it's a booger to just do it in regular print. But when we can do it in color, you can see that AI is at the center of what we do. And so, what I want to talk about today is my experience of how AI is, in fact, not just reducing the barrier to entry; it's removing the barrier to entry. Those are some tall words, but I do believe that is the case. And as a GIS practitioner of 30 years, I'm not sure. I imagine we have a range of people on this particular call for many years of experience, but you've seen things change, and you hopefully agree that without a doubt, AI is changing the landscape of all kinds of technology and just our world that we live in. So I'm going to focus on that today, and I first want to share a bit of my roadmap. I started about 30 years ago at a university northeast or north of Baltimore in the Mid-Atlantic area called Towson University. It was an early, I think the professor that I worked for was Esri customer number 5. He was a planner for the state of Maryland. He made dot matrix maps of land use. And I had the opportunity to mentor under him as an intern with a group of 4 people studying GIS. I got kind of accidentally stumbled on geography and then GIS, like maybe many of us have done. And I started working on some research projects at the university, and that grew from me being an intern on a team of 4 to 10 years later, I was the director of a premier center within Maryland in the Mid-Atlantic with about 40 people. And for a couple of years there, we focused on helping many aspects of state government apply GIS, from natural resources planning, environmental, across the board, and economic development, et cetera. Homeland Security was one of my favorites, but in all of that, it was about bringing a lot of disparate data together and making sense of things for, in that case, many of the functions of government. I imagine many of you are familiar with that work. I got particularly tired of trying to run a business inside of a university, and I made a leap and a transition to a company called McKinsey, and went from a team of 40 to a team of 1. The economy had kind of downturned right after I left. Everybody thought I threw my career away because I was at the top of my game at the university. And they said, "What are you doing in a real estate company, a team of 1 in a down economy?" Well, lo and behold, there was some advancing technology at the time. I've always been a kind of user of Esri and fan of the work that Esri does with all of its complexities and things. I think it's fantastic. And ArcGIS Online was just coming of age then. And suddenly I didn't have to worry about the infrastructure. I could just focus on the business case. And so in that real estate company, I was a one-man show that was helping a company navigate a rough economy. And we were doing amazing things with demographic data, market data, understanding parcels and zoning and some of the great data that governments had put out there, and how that helped influence real estate decisions. That work went so well, in fact, that some of my real estate partners said, "Hey, we should do this for other businesses besides just our own." So we spun out a company called Data Story. It's where I met Maya. She mentioned she was at a real estate company, and Data Story was focused on helping organizations that don't quite have the full bench of GIS capabilities that are needed. And we were an on-ramp to the technology in many, many ways. And during the time of growing Data Story for 10, ultimately 13 years, I learned that there's so many people that benefit from GIS, but so few people that actually know how to do it. And I would imagine there might be a few heads nodding right now, hopefully not nodding off, but nodding, saying, yes, people don't get what we do and how hard it is and what's involved in it. And so as with Data Story, we were focused on real estate. We were also focused on helping local governments do economic development. And we were focused on helping healthcare systems grow their practices in more meaningful ways. We did a lot of things that I think I'm proud of, made GIS simpler. And as you know, simple is hard. Having a phone with no buttons is a hard thing, but it's important that it be simple. And so my work, this trajectory of my work from the university to a real estate company onto a consulting, and eventually we became an app company. We built an app and licensed it to people. It walked along this trajectory of how do we make this easier and put GIS in the hands of more people. And that led to about 2 years ago, I connected with a longtime friend in real estate in the Texas area, who had a friend and a neighbor who was doing AI. I'd heard about AI, kind of knew what it was. I know that Esri has been doing the ML, the kind of machine learning type of AI for a while, but this notion of ChatGPT on the scene and transformers of language and generative AI, this was relatively new. And this friend, now partner, had been doing AI before AI was really cool and popular. And when AI required millions of dollars in large implementation within only a few large companies. And as you know, what's happened with ChatGPT and many other technologies is it's gotten so inexpensive and it scales that now everybody's using it and it's dramatically changing the landscape. So we came together as Locaition Matters as a real estate guy, a GIS guy, and an AI guy. Sounds kind of like a joke, right? We did not walk into a bar, but we came together and we said, what can it look like to make the use of GIS even easier, and dare I say, remove the barrier through the value of AI and natural language. And so that's the path and the theme of this. I do want to talk about, and I'll come to this a couple of times. The goal in my mind is not in any way to replace the work that humans are doing. It's to redefine our relationship, the relationship between humans and technology. And just as any technological advance helps you become more efficient and might automate things, AI is doing that dramatically. But there is a tremendous seat at the table for those of us as GIS practitioners that are willing to embrace AI, because we can work as a team of 10, but only be a team of one. And I bet, again, if I were to ask everybody here, do you feel like there's enough GIS horsepower on your team? You probably wish there was more. And that to me is the promise of what AI is up to. So let me just talk a little bit more what we do and to frame the context. Bringing two things together, location intelligence, GIS technology, you're probably all familiar with that. And then generative AI, which is our focus, and that is the ability to use natural language and interact and create new things within AI. I'd say broadly, we look at AI, but one of the real game changers is the fact that we can interact in a very natural way with a computer. And so bringing these two things together to have AI-powered GIS solutions, that's the context of this. And if I kind of go back to a point I made earlier, GIS is, in my opinion, hopefully you would agree, it is a superpower for sure. Those of us that have put the sweat and the late nights and worked maybe to get a GISP or maybe to just have the experience, you know that it is super powerful, super complex. It is a strategic advantage for businesses, governments, others, but most of those organizations don't even know it exists, or they know it exists, but they. Could you guys be sure to mute if you're not on mute? If you could mute, that would be great. I hear some background noise. Thank you. Other organizations just don't. They might know it exists, but they don't have the focus or the budget or just the ability to implement it well. And it's only accessible to these GIS elite and often folks who are a little overworked, in my observation. there's data everywhere. There's kind of a slow adoption curve, and what that shows up as I've observed in my 30 years is organizations they can get overwhelmed if they don't have systems set up in the right way. If I think about the real estate teams that I've been a part of, they might have a couple of wins with GIS, but they struggle to scale that research beyond the area that they might be familiar with in a local market. So GIS is a superpower for sure, and AI is a way of breaking down the barrier so that more people can get access to it. Now, this is a kind of a long arc of how our interaction as humans has evolved with computers. In the early days of computing and through, I don't know, mid 80s or so, it was all command line. Some of you might remember, I remember using PC Arc Info and command line, and that is how you interacted with computers, including GIS. I also remember being in school and my professor, the one I spoke about earlier, handed me a box. In fact, it's kind of funny if you can see over my shoulder here. This is the box, ArcView 1.0. It was a graphical user interface, this novel concept of clicking on icons and dragging them around as a way of being more efficient, but also I think opening up the opportunity to a wider audience because more people are visual. And then in recent years, we've seen our interaction with computers go towards chatbots. We're using natural language. I mean, yes, there's, I won't say her name because she'll answer, but that Siri on my Apple phone or maybe Amazon Alexa, we've been talking to those for a couple of years, but now we can talk to ChatGPT, we can talk to Gemini, Copilot, other things, and through natural language interact. So it is a game changer. It's something we should all be embracing, but what does that actually mean? Well, there's I call this an AI ladder, but it's not necessarily to imply importance. It's just somewhat of the evolution of how AI is broadening from simplifying access by like natural language chatbot to generating insights and then eventually autonomy. So it's probably a 5-hour conversation on this. I'm reading a great book about agentic AI. I'd recommend it. But the steps in this ladder, one of them is AI assistance. If you've used Business Analyst Web, for example, or it might be in Pro now, there is an assistant that allows you natural language to ask Esri, ArcGIS, to do something. There's other tools. You probably don't have many tools on your desktop today that don't have some kind of AI assistant or something within them. So it simplifies because through natural language you can talk and it helps you perform operations. The next tier up is more of the predictive AI. This is where we're leveraging the large scale machine learning and looking at patterns and trends across geographies and doing it in a way that is scaling beyond what we would have the capacity to do as GIS professionals and say, let me analyze this market, that market, this location, this assumption. AI can be a helper with us and can scale that, and it can work through the night. It can work without complaining and without needing food or anything. So it's part of your team that helps with predictive analytics, et cetera. And then the latest kind of emergence of AI is what's called agentic AI. And it's interesting because I've used the term like AI agent for a while, but agentic AI specifically means agents that are have some degree of independence, not quite the scary independence we see in some movies of the future, but these are agents that don't just answer a question in natural language, but they're set up to be able to proactively look at things. They're monitoring, they're analyzing, and then they act. They trigger an email to you if something occurs. They generate a marketing report based on information that they're finding, and they do these independently. So there is a whole emerging capability of agentic AI, and you can think of agentic agents as members of a team. One of the things when I came together with my partners and started imagining what is this company Locaition Matters going to be like, I learned quickly that rather than building a huge team that I wouldn't actually be able to do because it's hard to scale, I can build agents to do things for me. And I can build agents that help me find the data that I need a little quicker, that generate certain types of documents quicker, that go out and answer questions. So it allows me and our team to focus on the things that agents can't do yet, the more creative, again, things that require human creativity and ingenuity. So this AI ladder is something that is how you can think about. And when I show examples, you'll see examples of all of these. Again, you've probably experienced AI assistants in some ways, and some of you have maybe worked with the ML deep learning packages and things within ArcGIS. That would be some of the predictive AI that's you're using here. And so, with all of that in mind, what I'm up to these days, which is pretty interesting to share, is that we're essentially teaching AI how to do GIS. The reason for this is a couple things. I think everybody in the world can benefit from GIS, and so many people aren't even scratching the surface. Most people don't want to go to an Esri conference. Most people don't care what an Esri is or what a GIS is or what, pick your software. They don't care. They're running businesses. They're running retail businesses. They're running hospitality businesses. They're responsible for economic development. They're making decisions of public safety and government. They really don't have time to learn the thing that we love and we love to learn. So how can we help put that in their hands with tools that are out there? I don't know about you, but I've asked ChatGPT to do a lot of Esri-centric things, for example, and it doesn't really do a great job. And that's because I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but it's because GIS is complex. I think the documentation of GIS is not what the documentation is for other technologies that are out there. And so we are essentially teaching AI how to do that. And as I mentioned earlier, this work is underpinned by a very, very human story. Natural language prompts. This is where if we talk about reducing the barrier of entry or removing the barrier to entry, like everybody can communicate in words. Most people, right? Like to be able to like speak or type and just say it in a natural way that they would. So you don't have to worry about tools. Business users who benefit from this, they don't want training. They can just speak to it. That means we as GIS professionals, we get to stay strategic. AI can handle the grunt work more and more. I don't know how many of you are bogged down by what I call the grunt work, but when I'll tell you a story. When I was at my first real estate company, there was a gray-haired old broker named John, and he would ask me for the same five maps frequently. He'd say, "I need a zoning map, a traffic map, a parcel ownership map, an area, a couple things," and I'd make these maps, and it would take me a couple of hours. I got it down to like 90 minutes, 2 hours to make these maps for him. And I remember one day when I came in and I put the printed maps on his desk, and he paged through them and he threw them in the trash. And I said, "John, what are you doing? Why are you throwing those away?" He's like, "Oh, it doesn't have enough traffic counts. I don't want this site for real estate." And in that moment, I realized, man, I'm going through all this work for what really is just like a quick decision on his part. How can I make that easier? Well, we ended up building an app we called it Johnny's Five, and it was the predecessor of what became the app at my last company that we licensed. But it was putting all that data together and putting it in his hands so that he could just at that time push a button or two and get that information. And I didn't have to waste 2 hours for him to then throw something in the trash. He could spend less than 5 minutes, get the information, and then decide whether he wanted to move forward or not. If he wanted to move forward, he'd come back to me and I'd have a more creative project to do, like location allocation or something like that. So for me, this is all about it says business leaders, but really any kind of leaders making decisions. How can they do that smarter, faster, and more confidently? That's a storyline of GIS, but it's even faster and I think more confident when we enter AI into the mix. So, what does this mean? Well, we talk about these agents. This is kind of a view into the back room of the things that we're working on. There are agents that work from kind of the left side of the raw data to how do we find the right data? How do we bring it in? How do we transform it into something that we could put onto a map? And then how do we bring it together? This idea of data aggregation. So how might I combine these into a web map or something? And um, that's what these agent or agents might do. And then synthesizing this. So how can I actually start calculating and putting things together in new ways and then analyze it with all the geospatial analyses that exist and then put it into presentations. Maybe it's dashboards, maybe it's story maps, maybe it's some other kind of map-based presentation. And then how do I keep my stakeholders engaged. So if you imagine in your organization, there's probably people that require the work product that you have, and they would want to know every week, hey, what's the latest? What are all the new zoning changes that are in, or what are all the new kind of like updates on inspections of a particular infrastructure, or what have you, whatever your work may be. Imagine having capabilities to um, stay engaged and automatically generate some of that information, monitor it, and reports can get sent out and engage more quickly. So this is kind of a high level abstract view of these agents. I will say that there are super agents. They're kind of the manager that is able to orchestrate and put some of these things together so that agentically it's like that virtual team. And this is all happening through natural language conversation. So this is, again, a lot to unpack and a lot of detail and a lot of work in progress, but a little bit of what we mean by location intelligent AI agents. So let me transition here a little bit and show you, I'm going to show you a couple screenshots of what these look like in action. And then if there's time that allows, I'll actually show you some of this live, but I wanted to make sure I flew over things. This is an example of an AI agent that knows where to go for data and how to bring it together in the context, in this case, of real estate, but it could also be public safety implications or other just kind of other functions. And if I were in person, I'd show you this on my phone, but I could pull it out the phone and just say, hey, what's her name there? I won't say it because she'll light up on my desk here. Tell me about 4915 Lemon Avenue, Dallas, Texas. And it sends a text to an AI agent. That AI agent takes this address, geocodes it, and then it goes through and it looks at other data sets. In this case, it's been trained to look for parcels and foot traffic and Esri's points of interest and Esri's geo-enrichment. And it gets that information like a chef goes out to the grocery store and gets the ingredients, and then it brings them back and it puts them together into a concoction like that chef does. And that concoction is a natural language response. And it says, according to this source, Regrid, this address is a 0.85 acre of land. Here's the parcel number. Here's who it's owned by. Here's what it's zoned. Here's a link to the zoning. Here's the parcel value. Nearby, there's a bunch of retailers. You can see who they are here. If you're wondering about foot traffic, there's 31,000 people that visited this site in an average month. This one is a car wash. And we have information from this data source, Unicast, that shows where they're coming from and what is the demographics of that. So 23% of the people coming from this area and in these zip codes are between 18 and 23 or 29. We also look at a 10-minute drive time. We send that to Esri and say, what can you tell me about this? And it says, well, it's about 193,000 residents, median income 98,000, net worth. Here's what people spend on vehicle cleaning because it's a car wash. Here's what they spend on dining out, by the way. And here is the predominant Esri tapestry segment called Metro Renters, and I could click a link. Now, all of this, if you could see it, I'll show you an example of this on the desktop. It happens in about a minute. Those of you that have done pieces or maybe even all of this kind of analysis, you'd imagine how long it takes when you're using traditional GIS to do this. You also might have the deflated heartache that I had this morning on a client call when we created a really great dashboard and they just said, can you export it as a CSV? I just need the information. And sometimes we need to be responsive to just what people need, which is the statistics and the answer. And this particular question about 4915 Lemon Avenue may not need a map. I know that sounds like blasphemy to a GIS crowd, but as you can see, there's a lot of rich spatial analysis, geo-enrichment, other things that are happening in the background. And that's some of how this paradigm is changing of interacting with a natural language chatbot for this work. Another example of this, I will show you this live, so I'll just talk briefly about it here. But this is an experience builder application that we've built. It has a custom widget. That widget is a chatbot. It's something we're finding is really useful within Esri, because when you build an experience builder app, even as great as you make it, there's still maybe too many buttons to click to get what you need. So imagine an interactive chatbot within that. And in this case, this agent, this AI chatbot agent, it knows how to zoom the map. It knows how to turn layers on and off. It knows how to filter. It knows how to generate infographics. It knows how to do things. It also understands the insights into certain things. So what you see here is we've asked the question, like, tell me about Esri Tapestry Segment 1C, and it synthesizes this together. You've maybe seen those 4-pagers about Esri Tapestry. Maybe you haven't, but it's a psychodemographic profile that combines consumer demographics and expenditures and lifestyles and preferences. And this is putting it together into a context and just answering the question for somebody in here without saying, oh, go to this PDF link, scroll to page 3, read it, and hope that it makes sense. It's synthesizing it within the context of the GIS. Another example we built for the fire department in Allen, Texas, is solving a problem that the fire chief had, which is when there is extreme weather coming. Let's call it hail, let's call it tornadoes. He's asked when it's going to start. Are we in danger? There's a series of sirens around the city, and when do I push the button? And what he has been doing in the past is going to various weather sites and going here and going here and going here and adding this tab and adding these things together. It takes him some time. Maybe not the best use of his time, but it's what's needed. And he happens to be a weather nerd, and he's really good at it. Well, when we were talking with him, he said, it seems to me like an AI agent could go out and monitor those websites. Let's start with public websites. Let's move to some more premium things. And so we built this example. You'll see this. I'll show this live if we have time. But I can ask a question of what are the extreme weather events coming up today, tomorrow, next week? And then I can interact with it. When is it going to start? What might I do to prepare? And this is a good example of the importance of human in the loop, because I will not build, and I don't think somebody should build an AI agent that looks at the weather and pushes the button to sound the sirens. But I do think having something that helps him decide, hey, I get an alert, I get an aggressive alert reminding me, you need to look at this. I think you should push the button because it appears there's some extreme weather coming. He still gets to decide, but instead of looking at all of these websites and integrating it together, this agent is putting that together and informing him of that. This is an example. I mentioned agentic AI. So this particular agent monitors those weather sources on an ongoing basis. And if there is a kind of something that seems to trigger interest, it increases the monitoring. So we've got to balance out, how many tokens are used of OpenAI and things like that, kind of like Esri credits. But if there is something of interest, it starts to check it more often, just like we would as human beings, right? And it alerts, it sends a message, and those messages getting increasingly aggressive. So kind of, local view here, you can see broad scale integrating some of the weather layers that are available within the kind of the GIS ecosystem and layering those on. So this is a good example of work we've done in Texas with agentic AI. And then I'll show you this as well. One of our clients has a vision that we're bringing to life of how do you query and make sense of 175 million parcels across the US. And so this is an application called Pargo AI. It's just coming on the market. From a real estate standpoint, a financial due diligence, a kind of anyone interested in parcel-based work, what this allows you to do is sift through, again, 175 million parcels nationwide with natural language. I'll show you this in action as well, but I could say, show me parcels in Texas that are between 1 and 2 acres and greater than $5 million and within 1,000 feet of a transmission utility line, et cetera, et cetera. And it scans this and it brings it back. And there's zoning overlays and there's other things. What this AI is focused to do is build really complex SQL statements that the user doesn't have to do by clicking and picking and poking on a really huge interface. So just a couple of examples, and then the last thing, just to directionally show you where the technology is going. You may have played around with certain, if you're a dabbler of AI and technology, you might have played around with tools that build apps for you. It turns out AI is a pretty good coder, and it can build apps. And one of the things our team is working on is a platform that allows really all kinds of people, but I think it's well tuned to technical folks like yourselves to build apps faster. And imagine you have somebody on your team that knows how to code, knows how to build things. You're in control of that, of being able to say, build me an app that does, has a dashboard with color-coded dots on the map and does this, and it would know how to write the code and do that. So this is, we've got some early examples of this. I may or may not be able to show today, but there would be these templates within this that allow you to rapidly spin up and do the work that often, again, I don't know about you, but ends up taking me late nights fighting with Experience Builder or a story map or a dashboard. And there will still always be a place for the fine tuning of that, but to have a helper who helps you build it that you're in control of, that's the idea of this. I'll also say this is not limited to GIS. I'm obviously keeping the conversation very GIS focused, but the work that I've seen and I've been a part of, which is very exciting, is doing this for all kinds of other business function apps. My sense on those is that they all need GIS, and I think hopefully you agree. There's not many use cases in the world that wouldn't benefit from GIS in some way because place matters, location matters, and that's what we're again teaching AI how to do GIS in very meaningful ways. I'll end my slide deck with this, which is just underscoring and reminding all of us that AI isn't going to replace you. But the twist on that is somebody using AI might. And I really encourage you, if you've been on the slow end of adoption of this, grab a hold and take it. It's coming. It's coming fast. It is. I mean, there's simple little ways that you can use it. If you've used it within the Esri platform, it's phenomenal. I used to hate fighting with arcade expressions when configuring a pop-up, and I want a dollar sign and a comma and no decimals, and I could never remember how that is. Now I can just ask ChatGPT, like, "Hey, write this arcade code," and I think Esri's putting those things inside of the tool. It's something that makes you more productive. It is another tool in the tool set, so embrace it. Don't let somebody who's using AI replace you, but I don't believe AI will actually replace much of what we're doing or at least need to be doing. Okay, so where are we? So we are at about 35, 36 minutes in. Maya, if you want to let me know if I should pause for questions or I should show a couple of these things in action.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Matt. This is so interesting, actually. Yeah, I've got a few questions. Let me run by you.
Yeah.
I guess at the beginning you had mentioned a book when you were sort of started your talk, and someone asked what the title of the book was. Do you know what book
Yes.
she? Okay.
Agentic AI. I will. Let's see.
Stand by for the answer, please.
Stand by for the answer. It is called Agentic Artificial Intelligence by Pascal Bornet.
Is
Um,
that something you can copy and paste into the chat, perhaps?
yes, I will do that.
Thank you. And then while you're doing that, someone asked any info or thoughts on Europe's AI Act legislation.
I've got a guy for that, so I don't have a strong opinion right now on that.
Okay. Um,
But I will say, absolutely the legislative, the kind of regulatory side of this is really important. So important in so many ways, right? Here, let me send this while I'm.
it's
Uh,
interesting because my sister, who is a lawyer out in New Jersey, um, has recently started taking classes and getting certification on AI and law.
mm.
Because it's just been very fascinating for her. So I think this is wild.
Yeah, well,
Thank you
and
for,
one of the things where we're focused right now as some of these things get ironed out is just like having AI help us interact with a map. That to me, that feels in the safe realm of it's something like the next generation of a GUI, right? I'm using natural language. I get to when we start to index multiple data sets and we make predictive analytics and what's the risk profile of that and what's the ethics of using somebody's data. That is complex. Again, I'm grateful to have some expertise in-house as part of my partnership for that. But
sure.
I'm pretty committed to some of the easier wins that are hopefully less controversial to start.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear that. Um, uh, for the attendees, he did post the link to the book in the chat, so please go check that out if you're interested. Let's see, next question. There is a lot of talk about AI degeneration, garbage in, garbage out problems. Do you see this as a blockade? And related, how do you counter it?
Yeah, the it's kind of a deflating early part of us launching this company and doing some things. There absolutely is garbage in, garbage out, and you know, it speaks to having good data and also having it documented. That age-old thing of metadata that whether we're talking FGDC, metadata, or we're talking just item details in ArcGIS online. If that information's not there, AI has a hard time making sense of it. And then that same issue propagates beyond in many other different aspects. I mean, we've been involved in integrating with CRM, customer relationship management systems, things like Salesforce, right? And if the data is not clean and organized in there, AI can maybe make some generalizations, but the cleaner and better it is, and all those traditional IT things that we know are important are becoming really important. And we use a term when we're working with folks that is just like getting AI ready. And oftentimes we want to work on an AI project, and it does mean starting with what are the fields we want to include and what are the descriptions of them and the metadata. And if you've done your homework and that's in place, you're gonna leapfrog ahead. If not, it is a limiting factor in a lot of ways, depending on the use case of AI, right?
Mhm.
So
Right, right.
it depends. There's lots of wins that don't have anything to do with garbage in, garbage out. It's like we're using it um, more to control an interface or natural language that way. But certainly as we get into predictive analytics and things like that, that becomes an issue.
Yeah, makes sense. You really kind of went over this, but someone did ask, is the AI the end of GIS professionals, and when does it turn unethical?
Yeah, valid question. We should always wrestle with on the ethical side of it. Um, I I don't think it's the end of GIS professionals because again, everything that I've seen, every organization I've ever been a part of or sold to, um, they wish they had more GIS bench strength. I'm sure there's examples where that's not the case, and as one person and they've got a kind of they got a happy spot, those people might be disrupted, but I don't think they're going to be replaced. I think we get to go on and do more things. My experience is there's so much time that I've wasted doing the mundane and boring and dumb. I'll say dumb things. Sometimes it feels good, just like over and over and over again. But for the most part, there's so much available within GIS, and we only use like a fraction of the tool set. What if we got to do more? What if we had a team of people that are doing more? I don't think when we're pitching to organizations, we're saying, hey, do you wish you have 5 GIS analysts? You might have one, or you might have zero. We can help you have a team of 5. So if you're the one person, or you're even if you're on a team of 5 or 10, I guarantee you're wishing there were more people. So I would just say like use it to be productive and to be a rock star, and not to let somebody else figure out first how to do it to generate something that you're doing. Like be the one in control of what it's doing.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah. Let's see, the custom widget solutions that you show, does that require Experience Builder Dev Edition, and does it require a web server to host it?
Yes, yes, and yes. We're working through that evolution. Right now, it would require kind of a development, the dev edition of it. It also requires there's some AI technology in the back end that we would license and package with that has the knowledge base that it pulls from. So that would be some back end configuration. We're certainly aspiring to have it be something that would be available on the hosted version, but we gotta walk before we run there.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay. As the manager of a utility GIS, how do we get started with AI?
Oh, I'd want to unpack that a little bit more, but one of the things that comes to mind is just um, are you putting your data into the hands of other people who would benefit from it? And do they have a viewer that they're interacting with that people don't maybe use as much because it's complex, it's more complex than it needs to be? And is there an opportunity to put a friendlier natural language front end to say, show me our utility segments that haven't been inspected in the last 2 years? And it does some of the kind of that work through kind of a casual user explorer. That would be one thing perhaps. But I mean, I could brainstorm many other aspects for that as well. So happy to have a follow-up conversation on that. But that's one idea that comes to mind is putting your work, depending on your role, but putting your work in the hands of the other people who need it and reducing that barrier, removing that barrier.
Yeah. Okay. And everyone, Matt has posted his contact information up on the screen here, so make sure you grab that if you'd like to reach out to him. He's very approachable, by the way. Um, let's see, keep going with questions here. AI has been shown to significantly impact the environment. Are there any ways to combat these effects and perhaps to lessen the impact?
Yeah, there's a good discussion of that in that book. I mean, yes, it's energy hog, and there's a lot of issue there to wrestle with. So I think we're in the stages of figuring out that balance of the benefit versus the kind of the risk and those issues. So I think absolutely that's something to be concerned with, but I'd defer to the experts that are working through that. Again, I'd recommend that book.
Okay. Got a couple more quick questions, and then we've got some moves to move to the demo. So let me try
Sure.
to move through
Yeah.
these. Um, Someone said, great presentation, and you guys are on the right track as to how AI and GIS can and should be used to enable efficient processes. Question is, you mentioned foot traffic insights being part of the workflow process for one of your examples. Is this something you are paying for, or is the data being provided without monetary charges? And if so, who is the provider?
So that particular example is a company that we like and use for certain projects called Unicast. There's a couple of foot traffic providers out there, but we like their documentation and the quality of their data. And it would require a paid subscription to that data at this point. So the solutions we're working on, we're looking at how can we bundle some of these things together and make it more all in one. But you may already have access to some of this, and you could weave it together. Or again, I'll tip my hat to the good work that Unicast is doing for foot traffic.
Okay, cool, Unicast. And the last question I have right now, and then we can jump on the demo, is does the AI know how to best allocate credits used in Esri geoprocessing tools?
Does anybody know how to best allocate credits? Does any human know how to?
Totally fair
That
response.
Yeah, that's certainly a challenge. We've begun to look at that. We've begun to look at that when we have implementations of, is it using our credits? Is it using clients' credits? Untangling that. I think AI is a great ally to help us sort through and make sense of that. So, I mean, my answer is yes, but with the caveat that Esri is rather complex with that. And the other
Mhm.
challenge, which might be the question beneath the question there, is we have to be careful. So, in the realm of AI and training agents and chatbots to do things, there's this notion of guardrails, and you could put up boundaries to say, if I have a GIS chatbot, I can't ask it questions about, this rash on my arm. It's not a healthcare AI agent. I can't ask it travel questions. So this idea of guardrails is there. We also need to be able to have guardrails to say, don't keep going and going and going and going and burning credits. And so there is a notion, just like a human on your team, you have to train AI how to make the right kinds of decisions. And we probably all burned too many credits along the way within Esri.
Hmm.
We need to teach AI how to do that in credit efficient ways so that, yes, they're there and I understand why they're there. And if you're doing heavy lifting, it's fine. I'll pay for some processing, but we don't want to waste that. So
Right.
and that's a complex issue, but AI is an ally in us figuring that out.
Excellent. Okay, let's take these last minutes and jump into a demo. I think everyone's eager to see what you got.
All right, I'm going to do a really quick whirlwind tour on this just so that everybody can see it. But then I'm happy to
Excellent.
kind of follow up as needed with anybody. Okay, so the first one
Perfect.
I'm going
Thank
to have here is our that Market Insights AI, and what I'll show you with this is if I'll put my hands up so you can see them, but I'm just going to use voice to control this. So take
We
me to Denver,
can't see you, by the
Colorado.
way. We can only see your presentation.
Oh, okay. Well, I promise I'm not using my hands. I'm just using my voice here. So when I say take me to Denver, Colorado, this chatbot is going to take me to Denver, Colorado. And then if I say zoom in a little, it's going to zoom in a little. Incidentally, I showed this to somebody who's a longtime GISer, and he's like, wow, it just zoomed in a little. Because how many times have you put a map in somebody's hands and they use the wheel or they drag the box and they're like way in and way out and way in and way out? It He was impressed that like, oh, it actually knew a little bit.
That is
Um,
so cool, actually.
I could say pan to the north. Gonna make a liar out of me here. It does know how to pan. It's just being a little fussy.
Need some more coffee or something.
Yeah, I think so. All right. Just for the sake of time, here, let me just refresh this. This was sitting open for a while, so that could be part of this. And all right, let me try this again. Take me to Denver, Colorado. Here we go. All right. Filter the lifestyle layers for segment 8B. Kind of cool, right? Turn on the household growth layer. Turn on the housing affordability index layer. Label the map for housing affordability index. Let's see. Add labels to the housing affordability index layer. They're actually already on there, but could do that. So you can imagine different combinations of this, right? So if this was my utility network and I wanted to ask not for segment 8B, but for utility lines where some kind of SQL value, right? But I would just say like where inspection hasn't occurred in the last 2 years, and it would filter that and it would show it, and I could just natural language it. Oh, and what I also, we've got 8B on here, but what does 8B mean, right? Like so I could say, tell me more about segment 8B. And it's digging into let's see. Da, 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 da. Let's do this. Tell me more about bright young professionals. Oh, I should have said segment. Some of this is the natural language work that we're ironing out. But okay, so here's bright young professionals, and this is telling us who they are. They're well educated, lot enrolled in college, strong interest in fine arts, valuing education, creativity, et cetera, et cetera. So This is the idea. This chatbot, it knows what layers are here and dynamically reads it. It knows the field aliases. So we've designed it in a way so that it's configurable to a GIS person. You don't have to like train AI what the field, GR underscore CY equals 5-year growth. Like you just rename it as an alias and it's able to like dynamically read those field names just like we would if it's well documented. So this is one example here. It can run infographics that's in the works right now. Let me show you another example. This is the underlying platform beneath this. So this is where imagine these capabilities being tuned within that other dashboard. But if I give you address intelligence, this is the one that you saw a screenshot on my iPhone. But I could just say, tell me about 4915 Lemon Avenue, Dallas, Texas. And you can see the speed of this. So it's saying, okay, I've got this. I'm extracting this location, getting coordinates. I'm going to check with this regrid API. I'm going to check with unicast foot traffic. I'm checking the Esri POI, the Esri demographics, and then a permit database. And some of these are premium data sets, and we're just working off of some samples to show here, but we have clients that are using them like full nationwide, or jurisdiction-wide scale. And you can see in this quick amount of time, it geocoded, it geo-enriched, it gave us links, it gave us all of this information, including links out to things like this Esri tapestry segment. So I'm like one click away and I have this. This is the thing that works on like a phone, but imagine that in the context of here, I have in another example where we're fusing that together and I could just say, tell me about, the center of Denver, or I click on the map and it generates that kind of information and it generates an infographic report. So that's where we're going a little bit with that. And then a couple minutes left here. Here is the Allen Fire agentic example that I had. So I checked this earlier. There's not a lot of exciting weather happening in Allen, Texas right now, which is probably an okay thing. But tell me about extreme weather threats in Harford County, Maryland. That's where I am. We're having extreme heat right now. You'll notice also at the top here, there's 5 weather alerts. So these are 5 emails that have gone out that have some kind of indication, and that agent is monitoring and doing that. So it's read the National Weather Service kind of forecasts, and it's giving me some summarized information. It can say, here is the time, here's the detail, but I could ask it questions like, when is the heat likely to get above 100 degrees? So I can start interacting with it, right? And in the same way that we ask questions of ChatGPT, here we've got this like kind of small on the fly knowledge base of weather, and it's saying hopefully a large, so expected. It should be telling me like maybe it's already has temperatures, but it would tell me, by, oh yeah, because we're 2 o'clock here, but it might tell me by noon or something like that. So the idea of this is when is the ice going to start? When is the highest risk for tornadoes in the afternoon? And all of this, I'll point out, is in the context of a national set of weather information. So I've got I could turn on radar. I could click on this is my area here, and I could see this extreme heat warning. But I also could just drill all the way back home here and overlay this with my let's put my schools and our fire stations and our sirens and things like that. So these are on here on the map, and so where we're headed with this is ongoing development, is to be able to understand in a more granular level. Let's say there is a tornado vector headed in an area, doing a spatial analysis to say, well, here's the schools that are within a kind of dangerous area of that. Right now, we're representing this more manually not manually, but dashboard traditional on the map, where I can see there's 17 schools within view, but doing that point and polygon analysis on the fly is what we're teaching this AI agent how to do. So that's a piece. Real estate example in Texas here. This is one of our clients in Allen, and they have a bunch of real estate listings. And to be able to select one of these locations, automatically go to this and then look at the 5 minute drive time statistics in and around that location and jump between locations, see these drive times, see the statistics, and layer this together. So we're adding this will be available on his website. We're adding a chat bot to make this easier to interact with. Right now, you can just see it as a really pretty tight real estate use case where we've got things like traffic counts and kind of visual of the footprints of things, building footprints, et cetera, parcels on the map. So running out of time, let me just show you one more example here, which is, let me reload this. So this is this national scale search of parcels, 175 million parcels. If I want to do it old school, I could scroll through and I could set all these criteria. There's about 100 different criteria here of from land use to zoning to financial information. This client of ours, this product Pargo, has done a tremendous job pulling together a lot of data, but we don't need to worry about what all that is. I can just ask a question like, show me parcels less than 1 acre in Texas that are greater than $10 million total value and zoned commercial. I natural language speak that. It turns it into these criteria. I get to review this and say, does this look like it's correct? If not, I could exit out. I could voice update it. And when I hit go, it's scanning through 175 million parcels, which is no small feat. And it found 415 parcels here that met that criteria. There's hundreds of different things, right, that we're building into this, such as proximity to airports and schools and terrain and risk factor. So it's this dizzying amount of data, but when this comes back, it's going to give us a list of these 415 parcels, and and then I can see the detail in any one of those. So with that, I know we're at time. I want to respect everybody's time. Thank you for letting me give you this magic carpet ride over a bunch of things that we're doing here. There we go, within here, so you can see these, and I could click on any one of these to get right down to it and get the detail of
Yeah,
all the
this is
information.
wild. This is so, so neat. And we've had a lot of people join us today, which has been great. We have a lot. I think the highest I saw was about 157 or
Great,
something. If you need to get going, everyone, you're welcome to. I have a few more questions that came in, Matt, if you have a
sure.
minute or two.
Yep,
Um,
I am
okay.
happy to stay. Yep.
Okay, but feel free to anyone else if you feel free to log off if you'd like. So, questions. Does the back end of the AI code, is it made with Python?
Um, there's a that's part of the stack, but there's a lot of AI specific technologies that are, I mean, I need a little more intel into that question, and I probably couldn't answer as technically articulate, but I know that it's far more than Python. There's AI specific languages that can be used to write this.
Okay. And who and what does all the styling when you were doing the demo about the turn on the labels, like the color, the font, the label styles, and all that?
You mean like the cartography of
Yeah. Yeah,
the
like when
map?
you were doing the, yes, this right here is where they asked that question.
I mean the existing styles that are there, our team created. You know, one of my I'll use the chef example. I'm like the picky chef that is like, it's not perfect, send it back. We want things to look really, really beautiful. And so a lot of the colors and symbols and pop-ups we want to look very stylistic because I think humans take it in better and they're more accepting of it. As for these labels, one of the things that it may be able to do, but we're working on is if I were to just say change these labels to purple and a black background and add a percentage and you know, they're all kind of easy things to do within the platform, but would require a bunch of clicks. So we're teaching AI how to do those easy things so that we're not messing with the style. So I think that maybe is part of the question beneath the question there of we're teaching AI how to do those styles, but right now we've defined them as some default styles.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's evolving. It's a process. It's a work in progress. Um, Someone asked, are hallucinations an occasional problem?
Absolutely. So
What's that
Hallucination.
mean? I don't.
I mean, a hallucination is when you ask AI something and it gives you a very confident answer that is completely wrong, and
Oh.
you don't know that it's wrong. So, yes, that is definitely part of the work that our team does. And I mean, you see some hallucinations here as I'm chatting with it, and if I'm not clear enough about a lifestyle, it just might start talking about something else about a lifestyle. But in general, hallucination is, um, if I were to say, "Tell me about Matt Felton, the musician," it might answer Matt Felton, the musician, and I'm not a musician, and there may not be a Matt Felton musician. So that's where
Right.
good training of AI is putting guardrails in and then monitoring and it has to do with the language and the coding and the technology that our team uses. But there's ways to prevent most hallucinations and then monitor where there is and then correct it. Because like any other system, it is kind of thinking on its own and it makes stuff up. And we all know people like that. They're like they have an answer for everything and they sound confident, but sometimes they're just BSing us.
Right. Okay, look, somebody asked, I probably blinked on that if you've already answered it, but I'm going to ask you anyways. Are there any open source or low cost AI GIS platforms that are helping students or small organizations get started? And if yes, can you please share?
Hmm. Self-promoting here. One of the things I didn't show you is the kind of build products in minutes. And I also saw a question come in, so I'll answer this as well. Can you swap out the underlying LLM? Yes, you can. The things that we're building, we're working with. We like OpenAI, but there's times that other LLMs make sense, and even within OpenAI, there's different models that are better for analytical versus text and creativity and things. This particular platform that are kind of in our family of companies, and then we're bringing it to bear with GIS, is pretty affordable. It's like $80 a month. I don't know if that, affordability is ranges, but to get access to build capabilities and build apps, that's where we're aiming that. And then you're just paying for usage of it. You're not paying for the heavy lift of a consultant to build things, and that's the model on that. I've been the answer is yes. I think there's plenty of things out there, but I'm maybe not the best person to ask. Imagine it's coming from a how do we teach students to do this and how do we equip students to learn? I think I'd be interested in, if you want to shoot me a note following up and talking to others on my team that could speak to that, because I absolutely, sidebar on the issue of we're not allowed to use AI in school. I think that's a bluey. We absolutely need to use it responsibly. Yes, if it's writing your essay for you and you're just hands off and you're turning it in, that's stupid. But if you're using it as an assistant, helping you press deeper into a research topic, helping you write something more clearly, faster, I think we need to be embracing all of this in schools and finding tools to help people do that. So I'd
Hmm.
definitely be interested in following up on that.
Excellent. Okay, so this is really cool. Is the chatbot in the Geo app built as a custom widget in Esri Experience Builder? I think you mentioned it was. Or was the entire app created without using Esri products?
No, it's we started in this of saying let's create a widget that you can plug into Experience Builder, knowing that I think this audience is a good kind of target for that. You're building apps. It's great. You know how to do a low code, no code app, but you need more capabilities. So we built this particular chatbot to plug into Experience Builder. We are building ground up apps that will use the same kind of underlying engine, like you saw that one Pargo parcel app. But
Hmm.
in this case, it is a widget that you can kind of import into the widgets and configure. There's a couple steps to configure it because of the connection to a knowledge base, but definitely happy to talk if that's something of interest.
Okay. And you mentioned you answered the question about the LLMs, but the first part of that, I don't think you answered. It was, do all of these apps use ChatGPT? And I think the answer was no, because you're building your own, right?
Well, that you could swap out like what underlying kind of foundation model, large language model that you're using. So
Okay. Gotcha.
ChatGPT is
Gotcha.
most common, but yeah, we could swap it out.
Okay. And then the last question I have so far is earlier on, you mentioned that these AI web app builders which are good for making quick and nice looking landing pages, but do you worry about the security aspect of the apps or the performance of it?
Uh, Definitely worry about the security because it's like really, it's sort of akin to in ArcGIS Online, you can build apps and you can hit share with everyone, and suddenly everybody has access to your, your internal proprietary information. So that in some ways, it's no different. But in other ways, it is different because it's like it's even easier. And so that's the importance of human in the loop, which is an AI term, making sure there are humans involved in it and making sure that there's governance and there's responsible security policies and things like that. So it is easier to build things faster. So it's easier to make mistakes faster and leak things out. But I think you just need to monitor and do that very, very thoughtfully. I forget what the second part of that question was, but or the
Uh,
performance, but maybe the
Performance,
performance
yeah.
center.
And then someone else asked, how do you manage proprietary data, which you just were touching on?
Yeah. I mean,
So,
it's really the same way if you think about how you manage things in ArcGIS Online or and it, you can a couple clicks and you can make it shared with people you don't want to. So you have to make sure that the right people have access to the right tools and right capabilities. And yeah, I mean, a lot of governance there.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And that's all the questions I have, but I have several comments. People seem to really like it. Thank you. One person said, great presentation. Thank you for showing us the capabilities of AI with GIS. Thanks, very interesting. This really was a magic carpet ride. Thank you for sharing, very inspiring. Somebody said, thanks, it makes me want a data team even more. And
Yeah.
someone mentioned, if you haven't seen the 60-minute segment on training AI, you should Google it and watch. Have you seen that?
I'll have to check
I,
that out. I've
yeah,
seen
I
similar
haven't
things,
seen
but
it.
if there's a specific one to share, certainly love to see it.
Yeah. And people are just seem to say, great job, very inspiring. Thank you so much. That's kind of stuff. So
Great.
great presentation, Matt. Thank you so, so much.
Yeah. Appreciate the
And
opportunity to share with you all. I know it's fast paced, but hopefully it's worthwhile.
yeah, plop your contact information back up there just in case anybody else
Yep.
wants it.
Yeah.
And otherwise, thank you very much, everyone. It's a really great presentation. There's his contact information if you need it. You're welcome to reach out. And other than that, have a wonderful day, everyone.
All
Thank
right.
you so much for joining us. Thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate your
Thanks all.
time.
Sure thing. Take care.
Okay, have a good one. Bye-bye.